Welcome back to Tale 3 Cabins. Last RV episode we were in Yellowstone. We were in the southern portion, just leaving the Lewis Lake campground, and we're heading south towards the Grand Tetons. The ride towards the Tetons wasn't too bad. These two national parks are pretty close to one another. So we only had about an hour and a half drive. We kind of took our time getting down there, stopped, taking some pictures here and there, and we arrived at our campsite a little bit early. And we're staying at the Rving campgrounds, and basically they offer sites that have electric, and there's some sites that are tent camping. It's a pretty large campground. It's fairly popular there. Moose are known to meander through the campground here and there. We arrived at the campsite a little bit early. They weren't sure if our site was able to be checked in or not, so they had us kind of wait off to the side for a little bit. But we were able to use the dump station, so we used the dump station while we were waiting, got that all situated. There was some questions whether or not their dump station was operational or not, but it was working perfectly. We also topped off our water tank just before we got to the campground, so we have empty black and empty gray and a good amount of fresh water, so we're good for a couple days. Now we're only supposed to stay here 2 days, and we were looking to go to a boondocking site, which I'm kind of looking forward to. It has great views, it's free camping, it's dry camping. We're kind of looking at the weather, and we're going to make a decision. If possible, maybe we won't do it because of the temperatures. It's just been pretty warm in the afternoons. Temperatures are still getting up into the 90s, so that's a factor for us to be dry camping with the dog. So there's going to be a couple variables, obviously the weather, and possibly if we can extend our stay where we're at. I doubt we could get the same campsite, but if we could stay with electric here in Rving campgrounds, maybe we would just tack on another 2 days. We'll just have to go online and check that out. But for now, let's get things started. One of the things that might interfere with our gorgeous view is that there's wildfires in Idaho, and periodically it blows the smoke in our direction and obscures the view of the mountain. We're going to stay in this area for 4 days, so hopefully we'll have a chance where it's going to be cleared and we can get some nice pictures. But if you're only planning on staying here for a day, sometimes it's a crapshoot and it could affect your visit. The national park itself is smaller than Yellowstone, but there is still a lot to do here. One of those things is you can take a float trip down the river and get awesome views of the Grand Tetons. Place that is a must visit is Jenny Lake. Jenny Lake has a loop trail that goes all around it. It's about 7.5 to 8 miles long. But if you want to cut that short and just hike part of it, you could take a boat ride across the way. Once you get across the lake, you have a few options. If you're just going to go one way and get dropped off, it's $12. If you want to go round trip, just go down there, check out the area and come back on the boat, that's $20.
We gotta do this.
Good morning. How is everybody? Great. Good. I'm Megan. This is Dodge. We're going to be taking you across the lake. A little bit of safety info for you. Life jackets like this are located under all the bench seats. Children's life jackets are under the fourth seat on the left. Put this on, put it over your head, wrap the strap around, clip it, pull it tight. If we needed to evacuate the boat for any reason, we go over the sides or out the front, never over the back where the propellers are. And if anybody does end up in the water, there's a throw ring in the back and I'll be throwing that to you. Rving, and they are not. Please do not feed the wildlife. You can get a ticket for that in the national park. Also, that food can make them sick and it creates bad eating here. Please stick to the trails that are provided for you. If you're hiking up, you can go off this dock.
Once you get to the other side, you have some options. You can go visit a nice waterfall. You can go up to Inspiration Point, and then if you want, you just hike back and come back to the boat, and the boat will take you back. Or you could hike the loop trail that goes around the lake. There's a longer portion, which is probably about 5 miles, or you can take a shorter one that's about 2.5, depending on which direction you go. Karen and I both hiked to the waterfalls, and then I went up to Inspiration Point. She went back to the boat dock and took the boat back, and then I hiked the loop trail on the way back. Inspiration Point is a steep rocky climb to a nice overlook area. We spent a good half a day at the Jenny Lake area, and you could have spent longer. There were a lot more hiking trails and a little bit more to explore. We ended up going on recreation.gov, and we were able to extend our stay at the Grovont campground by another 2 days. The only catch is that we had to move to a different site, which was actually a little bit nicer than our original one.
Hi, how are you?
They wanted us to check in again, so we thought we would just take advantage of the dump station, empty things out, add some more fresh water, and head to our new site. Our whole routine this trip is usually when we get out of the car and go into the trailer for the first time. Willow does not want to go in there.
Girl. Come on. Why is it every time we first move to a new place,
Come on.
then you're in and out like a spring chicken?
Let's go.
Come on, let's go.
Get up there. Let's go.
Come on, Pop-Pop, let's go. Come on, we'll go get some lunch.
Willow, come on, let's
Try
go.
again. Come on, there we go. Good girl. Come on.
The smoke coming from Idaho does make for some very fiery sunsets behind the mountains. I'm hoping it stays clear enough in the morning so I can get some nice photos of Mormon Row. Of all the areas by the Grand Tetons, Mormon Row is probably one of the most popular places to get a nice photograph. It's perfect in the morning with the sun coming up, hitting the mountains in the background. There were tons of photographers around me, probably about 15 to 20 more, with much more professional equipment than me, all set up with their tripods.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
Today's haze is keeping me from getting one of those nice reflective shots in the water. This will be our last afternoon for some sightseeing, and I'm going to miss it. We've been here 4 days, and I feel like there's so much more that I'd like to do, or just relax and enjoy some of the things we've already done. There are quite a few things where you don't even have to enter the national park to see. Mormon Row, for example, is one of those things. This river is just a few hundred feet behind our campgrounds, which is a beautiful walk, and I think this river is much wider come spring when the snow melts off the mountains. There is a small grocery store and a place to dine just before you enter the national park, and it's pretty convenient if you didn't want to go into the town of Jackson. Now, Jackson is pretty expensive when it comes to food or lodging. I've been told by many locals here that they all joke that the billionaires are pushing out the millionaires. So RVing in this area is probably the right thing to do when it comes to price-wise of lodging. The campgrounds are reasonable, but if you're going to stay in a hotel or some sort of other stay in Jackson, it's going to be pretty pricey. Nonetheless, I recommend that you visit the town. We grabbed a bite to eat, some groceries in preparation for leaving in the morning. This will be our third stop at this dump station. We're heading out this time, and we'll be able to empty things out, and I'm not quite sure just how much water we're going to need, so I'm only going to put about 20 gallons in it. Alright, so my take on the Grand Tetons is I enjoyed it much more than Yellowstone. And Yellowstone is a great place to visit, but the Tetons just seem to be a little bit more laid back and relaxing. Still a lot of things to do there, and I didn't feel pressured that I had to take everything all in. So we're going to come back. We'll come back to both, I'm sure. But I think the Tetons just seemed a little bit more nicer to us. We enjoyed being in the Grovon campground, which was not far from Jackson, so that made it convenient if we needed to go in town for groceries or supplies. If we were staying extendedly, we could do laundry there. A lot of folks say that Jackson's pretty expensive, and it is. So if you're into like going out to dinner or nightlife, that stuff is pretty pricey. We had to experience a couple restaurants while we were there, and we experienced a restaurant over by just before the park entrance. Had a nice little pizza place, bar type restaurant, great view. But we'll be back to Yellowstone and the Grand Teton. The next thing is that we were thinking of going to Utah, and that was going to be next on our itinerary. And we looked at the weather forecast, and they're having record heat out there. Go figure. Temps at Park City, Utah are going to be in the mid 100s, 105. They're having record-breaking heat. And we just don't want to deal with 100-degree temperatures. We kind of got tired of the 90-degree temperatures. So we're going to go in the opposite direction, and we're going to add some elevation and hopefully go to a little bit cooler climate, maybe a nice cool 80, 85 degrees. So we've shortened our itinerary a little bit, but the next stop now, we're going to be within miles of an O'Reilly's auto parts store. So I'm going to try to tackle my misfiring problem, get some auto parts, see if I can take care of it, and that way it'll be alleviated before we have that long haul back home. I appreciate everybody watching these videos. I hope you enjoy and subscribe to them. Click on that little bell if you want to know when a new one is coming out, and keep an eye on us. Next week we're heading back to Southern Ohio. JD still has some odds and ends to do. I got some cabin maintenance, and hopefully the rut is going to start. So take care, everybody.